There's this really rich irony in the financial services industry.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about a profession that is explicitly completely dedicated to planning for the future. You have advisors spending 40 years telling clients, you need a roadmap.
You need to mitigate risk.
You need to know exactly where you are going. It's their entire value proposition.
It is predicting, preparing, securing the future.
Right. But then you flip the camera around, you look at the advisors themselves, and it's the classic case of the cobbler's children having no shoes.
Oh, completely.
We have this massive paradox where the experts at planning are often the ones with, well, absolutely no plan for themselves.
It is a huge blind spot, and the data it backs this up. A shocking number of independent advisors have no written succession plan.
None.
And the source material we're looking at today really gets into the why. It's not that they don't care about their business. It's that looking at your own exit is terrifying. It feels final.
And it feels incredibly complicated. I was reading through the setup for this deep dive, and the barriers are real. Usually when someone says succession planning, you immediately think...
Suspensive lawyers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Complex valuation models, buy-sell agreements that take 6 months to draft. I mean, it just sounds exhausting.
And that complexity is the enemy. Because it seems so overwhelming, advisors they procrastinate. They kick the can down the road.
Yeah.
And the source makes a really profound point about this. It argues that because they wait, succession becomes something that happens to a business rather than something intentionally designed for it.
Oof. That is a haunting phrase.
Isn't it?
Something that happens to a business, that implies a crash, a health event, a crisis.
Exactly. It turns an asset into a liability overnight. But the approach we're breaking down today, it's kind of the antidote to that paralysis. We are looking at a framework by Todd Bryan Doherty called the 3-page succession plan.
3 pages. Okay, in an industry that loves a 50-page prospectus, 3 pages sounds almost suspicious.
It's radically simple. But the argument here is that simplicity is actually a strategy. The goal isn't to have a perfect legal document collecting dust in a drawer. The goal is clarity. So the framework strips everything down to 4 fundamental questions.
Okay, I want to get right into those. Our mission today is to demystify this whole thing. If you're listening and you've been avoiding this topic because it feels like a mountain, we're going to prove it's actually just a series of small steps.
Let's do it.
So the first big idea in this guide is that simplicity isn't just, nice to have. It's the mechanism that actually gets the plan done. Why is simple better than comprehensive here?
Because comprehensive plans often fail to launch. The source argues that the most durable plans, they focus on the what and the why before getting bogged down in the, the how much and the legalese. If you can't answer the basic strategic questions, your valuation model is completely irrelevant.
It's about intent before mechanics. Okay, so let's take question number 1. It seems obvious, but I have a feeling this is the one that causes the most anxiety.
Oh, for sure.
Question 1 is, when will you retire?
It sounds like such a simple calendar question, doesn't it? But this is where the paralysis starts. Advisors think, well, I don't know if I want to retire on July 12th, 2030.
Right.
They feel like if they write it down, they're signing a resignation letter. They're putting an expiration date on their own career.
It feels restrictive, like you're painting yourself into a corner.
But the source clarifies this beautifully. It's not about a date. It's about a planning horizon.
A planning horizon.
Yeah, think of it like a runway. You're not radioing the tower saying, I'm wheels down at 2:0 p.m. sharp. You're just saying, hey, I'm beginning my descent.
That is a crucial shift in perspective. So practically speaking, in this 3-page plan, how do you define that horizon without a specific date?
It just uses checkboxes. It asks you to pick a window. Is it 0 to 3 years, 3 to 5, 5 to 10, or, and this is the controversial one, flexible to be determined?
See, okay, that's where I get skeptical. Flexible sounds like a total cop-out. It sounds like I haven't decided, so I'll just check this box and keep doing what I'm doing. How is that a plan?
I thought the same thing at first. I really did. But the source argues that even checking flexible is a strategic decision if it's documented. It acknowledges that you're thinking about it, but you are explicitly keeping your options open.
Okay.
And the benefit here is that defining any window, even a flexible one, creates structure.
Structure for whom, though? For you?
For everyone else. Your staff, your potential successors, your clients down the line. If you say, I'm looking at a 5 to 10 year horizon, that tells your team something vital.
Yeah.
It tells them they have time to grow. It tells them there is a future where they might step up. If there's no window, your best talent might just leave because they can't see a path forward.
That makes a lot of sense. It creates a container for the business to operate in. It reduces that key person risk, the risk that everything falls apart if you step away.
Precisely. It preserves optionality. You can always change the window. The market could crash. You decide to stay 2 years longer to steady the ship. That's fine, but you have to have a baseline to deviate from.
So it's about signaling intent, not signing a contract in blood. That lowers the barrier to entry, for sure. Okay, let's move to question 2. This one feels less about logistics and more about psychology.
Oh, this is the identity crisis.
Question 2 is, what will you retire TO?
This is the stumbling block that catches almost everyone off guard. I mean, I have seen high-performing advisors who have the financial means to retire 10 times over, but they simply cannot do it.
Because their entire self-worth, their identity, is wrapped up in the business?
Exactly. They are the advisor. They are the person the community trusts. They're the leader. If you take that away, who are they?
Right.
And the source material makes a really big deal about the distinction between leaving something and moving towards something.
It's the void problem. If you only see retirement as leaving, it just feels like a loss.
It feels like a death. But if you see it as moving toward a new chapter, it becomes exciting. And crucially, this is why it's in the plan, you can't build the operational succession plan if you don't know what your personal future looks like.
The source actually lists a menu of options here, which I found really helpful because it breaks that binary of just working versus golfing.
Right. It's not on or off. It's a spectrum. You could be a senior advisor or take on an emeritus role.
Define emeritus for me in this context. Is that just a fancy title for I still get a check, but I don't really do anything?
Well, ideally, it's a specific role where you maintain the culture and key relationships, shaking hands, reassuring top clients, but you're not managing the day-to-day.
I see.
Or you could move into mentorship or consulting, or you could go for the clean exit.
Just walking away into the sunset.
Yes. And here is why picking one of these matters for the business. If you want a clean exit, well, we need to start aggressively transferring your relationships right now. Immediately. We need clients to bond with the new advisor. But if you're staying on as emeritus for 5 years, we can handle that transition much more gradually.
So the operational mechanics depend entirely on the personal desire. You can't pack your bags if you don't know if you're going to Alaska or Hawaii.
Exactly. And the source warns about a trap here with the consulting role. A lot of founders think, oh, I'll just consult. But if they haven't emotionally let go, consulting just becomes meddling.
Why did you buy that software? I wouldn't have done that.
Right. You become the backseat driver. So this plan forces you to define the role before you get there. If you hate the idea of a full stop, then don't plan for a clean exit. Design a phased transition. It's your business. You get to design the exit.
Okay, so we've got the when, the runway. We got the what to, the destination. Now we get our hands dirty with the mechanics. Question 3, how will you transition your practice?
This is the operational heart of the plan. This is where the rubber really meets the road.
And the source warns about a very specific, very common trap here. The search for the mini-me.
Oh, the mini-me trap. It is pervasive. Advisors look for a successor, and their first instinct is to find a younger version of themselves. I need someone who looks like me, talks like me, invests like me, has my exact personality.
It's basically vanity hiring.
It is, but it's also unicorn hunting. That person probably doesn't exist. And even if they do, relying on one individual is so risky. What if that one mini-me gets a better offer? What if they decide they don't want to buy the firm? Your whole plan just evaporates.
So what's the alternative the source suggests?
It's about team capability rather than individual dependency. Instead of asking who replaces me, you ask, how does the team absorb my responsibilities?
That's a much stronger architectural approach.
Yeah.
So maybe Alice takes over the investment committee and Bob takes the client relationship management and the operations manager steps up to run the business itself.
Exactly. You're institutionalizing the value.
Yeah.
It makes the business more durable, and honestly, it makes it more valuable to a potential buyer too. A business that relies on a team is worth more than one that relies on a single rainmaker.
Let's talk about the client perspective on this. How? The source uses 3 specific words. The transition should feel stable, familiar, and thoughtfully managed.
That is the litmus test. If I am a client and I've been with you for 20 years and suddenly you're gone and there's a stranger sitting at your desk, I'm panicking. I'm wondering if my money is safe.
The trust hasn't been transferred.
Right. But if Over a 3-year window, I've already been introduced to 2 other team members. If they've been sitting in our meetings, handling my paperwork, maybe answering my emails when you are on vacation.
Then when you finally retire, it's a non-event.
A non-event. That's the goal. It really is. Boring is good here.
Right.
And the source lists specific checkboxes for this. Team-based transition versus role-based responsibility shift. And it asks you to define the goal for clients. Is it just continuity? Or is it expanded capabilities?
I really like that part. Selling the transition as an upgrade.
It's brilliant marketing, isn't it? Instead of, I'm leaving, sorry, I'm stepping back. But look at this amazing team of specialists we have built to take care of you. You're actually getting more resources, not fewer.
That pivots us perfectly to the final pillar. You can have the best operational plan, the best team, the best timeline. But if you explain it badly, everyone freaks out.
Mm-hmm.
Question 4 is, what will your communication strategy be?
The soft skills. This is where the emotional intelligence comes in. Succession is structural, yes, but for the client, it is deeply emotional. They've trusted you with their life savings, their kids' college funds, their retirement.
The source has a golden rule here. No surprises.
No surprises. Clients and staff need reassurance. If they hear rumors or if it happens abruptly, trust is broken. And in this industry, trust is the only product you actually sell.
So how do we frame the message? The Force gives some pretty specific guidance on the narrative.
First, you put the client at the center. The announcement shouldn't be about you and your desire to travel the world. It should be about them and the continuity of their service.
Right. Not, I'm tired of working, but we have been building a plan to ensure your family is taken care of for the next 20 years.
Exactly. And going back to what we just said, position successors as additive, not replacements. You're not being swapped out like a used part. The team is growing.
What about timing? Do you just do a big blast email? Goodbye, everyone.
Please never do that. No. The plan suggests checking if communication is early and staged as responsibility shift or at key milestones. It's a drip campaign. You acclimate people to the idea over time. You normalize the presence of the successor.
I noticed the document also includes centers of influence in the checklist.
Yep.
That's your attorneys, your CPAs, the people who refer business. Why is that separate from clients?
Because they are your pipeline. If the local estate planning attorney hears through the grapevine that you are winding down, they will stop referring clients to you immediately.
Oh, wow.
They don't want to send a client to a firm that might not exist in 5 years.
That is a massive business risk I hadn't even thought of.
You have to proactively tell them, no, we aren't winding down. We are building for the next generation. We are here to stay. You have to sell the succession as a sign of strength and longevity.
This all ties back to keeping the business healthy while you're heading for the exit. It's interesting how much of this communication strategy is actually about protecting the business's value.
Absolutely. The value of a financial practice is entirely based on client retention. If the communication is bad, retention drops, and the value of the asset you're trying to sell just plummets.
Okay, so we've covered the 4 questions: when, what to, how, and communication. But I want to talk about the document itself, this 3-page plan. What does it actually, physically look like?
It's literally a fill-in-the-blank template. It's designed to be printed out and scribbled on. It is not a digital file to be lost in the cloud. It is a living document.
And there's a section at the end called Final Check that kind of forces you to be honest. It asks for a next review date.
Yeah, because this plan isn't one and done. You need to look at it every year. Maybe your when changes. Maybe your health changes. Maybe your key successor quits. The plan has to be dynamic.
And it asks you to identify the primary risk if plan is delayed. That's a real kick in the pants.
It's a reality check. If you have to write down primary risk, my key successor leaves because they don't see a future here, or primary risk, the value of my business drops by 30%, that becomes very real. It stops the procrastination.
Speaking of stopping procrastination, there is one specific prompt in the source that I absolutely love. It's the 90-day rule.
One action to take in the next 90 days. This is brilliant behavioral psychology.
So good.
We've just talked about these big, scary, life-changing concepts. It's easy to get overwhelmed again. But if you just have to write down one thing to do in the next 3 months, it breaks the paralysis.
And that action doesn't have to be sell the firm.
No, not at all. It could be have lunch with a potential successor, or write a draft of my retirement vision, or update the organizational chart.
It just demands movement, because a plan without movement is just a wish.
And as the source says, this document is designed to evolve. It allows for a change in course. The simple exit concept gives you permission to plan without having all the answers figured out perfectly.
It removes the excuse of complexity. If you can answer 4 questions, you have a succession plan. It might be a rough draft, but a rough draft is infinitely better than a blank page.
Infinitely. A rough draft protects your family and your clients. A blank page puts them at risk.
So let's recap for everyone listening. If you're sitting there thinking about the future of your business, or frankly any leadership role you're in, you need to ask yourself these 4 things.
1. When? Define your runway. Even if it's flexible, give it a frame so your team isn't flying blind. 2. What to? Define your future identity so you know what you're building towards and don't end up sabotaging the exit because you're bored. 3. How? Define the mechanics, prioritize team capability over finding a clone of yourself. And 4. Communication. No surprises. Make it client-centric and staged over time.
And remember the guiding principle from the source material. A strong succession plan is not about predicting the future. It is about being prepared for it.
We can't predict health issues, market crashes, or family changes. We've learned that recently enough. But we can be prepared for the inevitable transition of leadership.
So here's a thought to leave you with. We always worry about external threats to our businesses. We worry about the stock market crashing or a competitor opening up shop down the street. We worry about AI replacing us. But what if the biggest risk to your legacy isn't any of that?
That's the provocative question.
What if the biggest risk is just silence, the ambiguity of an undefined exit? If you disappeared tomorrow, right now, would your business endure? Would your clients be taken care of? Or would it just end?
Because if it just ends, you didn't build a business. You just built a job for yourself. And a legacy requires more than that.
A legacy requires a plan, even if it's just 3 pages. Thanks for diving in with us today.
Always a pleasure.